Coming up on Tech News Today, Sony and Nintendo pitch for their survival. It's Ultrabook Day at Computex, and the Napster guys are back with Chatroulette. Sort of. Kind of a new thing. We'll explain next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, June 5th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to Squarespace.com, use offer code TNT6, and they now offer free domain registration with annual plan subscriptions. And by ShareFile by Citrix. Enhance your workflow, send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile by Citrix. Try ShareFile today for a 30-day free trial plus double storage. Go to sharefile.com, click the radio microphone, and enter the promo code TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I am OMG Chad.
And Ayaz Akhtar is off on vacation at E3. I'm playing video games. Smart man. I'm not going to go and report. I'm going to go and play. That's awesome. But joining us today, we have Ryan Shrout from PC Perspective at PCPer.com. How's it going, Ryan?
Doing pretty well. I guess the disembodied head of me will replace Ayaz in his seat.
Yes, actually we do. We have you in a screen.
I didn't even know the difference. Wow.
And
So you said that.
Wow, Sarah, really? Gosh.
Well, I'm
he's only
blind,
been gone
legally.
one. And now the blind people are
Sorry.
Great, Sarah.
I can't win.
First the cats, now the
E3,
blind
everybody.
people.
Shovel.
Computex.
We've got lots of Computex stuff to talk about. I know that's keeping Ryan really busy. We've got E3 announcements from Sony and Nintendo to talk about. We got some Mac rumors, but let's start off with the top 10 stories in the news fuse. Why did we play the Christmas one?
I didn't know. It's such a quick transition, I can't choose anymore.
Sean Parker and Sean Fanning, the folks who brought you Napster, have launched their new project today called Airtime. We're going to talk about that, too. The service matches people with common interests and social connections in video chat sessions. Works in Facebook with 2 screens to accommodate the user and a friend. The 2 can share videos and files or just talk. You can limit it to just your Facebook friends or be matched with strangers who share similar interests, hobbies, likes, friends, and all that kind of stuff.
If you hate the way Google Docs works on mobile, then you and I have something in common. But you might be pleased to hear that Google has just purchased Quick Office, which makes mobile apps that can view, edit, sync, and share Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint documents on Android and iOS devices. Alan Warren, Google's engineering director, wrote in a blog post about the acquisition. Google said it will work on integrating the mobilization product into Google Apps. I like where this is going.
Me too, sort of. Nintendo had their E3 press conference today, showing off 20 games in development for the forthcoming Wii U game console. Among the titles showed off were Nintendo Land, kind of a Wii Sports for fans of Nintendo franchises. There's areas for Zelda, Super Mario, even a Luigi's Mansion. Also showed off Batman Arkham City Armored Edition, which uses the gamepad as a bat computer. The Wii U will also have HD video from Netflix, Hulu Plus, Amazon Video On Demand, and YouTube. Nintendo did not announce release dates or prices, but said the console is expected to ship in time for the holidays.
Sony had its E3 press conference last night, and most people are excited about the introduction of Wonder Book. When you hold up specially created books to the PS3's camera, you get augmented reality stories. The first Wonder Book title will be Book of Spells, a Harry Potter-themed book including new writing from J.K. Rowling. You can wave the move like a wand to cast spells.
Ooh, Accio,
those Pottermore people are going to go nuts over this.
Expecting hardware announcements at Apple's WWDC is often a recipe for heartbreak. But 9 to 5 Mac swears that the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and iMac lines will get upgrades. They also report either Mac Mini or Mac Pro will get updated as well. Wall Street Journal has its own rumor to bolster, reporting that not only will Apple replace the Google Maps app in iOS 6, but that it's been in the works for years and will come with free turn-by-turn nav.
Forget ebooks. How about books with glass touchscreens for pages? That and more curvy touchscreen phones and tablets are now possible thanks to Corning's lattice latest glass innovation, Willow Glass. So that's one more thing you have to remember, Tom.
Willow Glass.
Willow Glass, along with
Glass.
Smart Glass and Project Glass and Google Glass. Launched Monday at a trade show in Boston. The glass is spun extremely thin and flexible enough to roll into 2-inch radius tubes, thanks to a manufacturing process similar to that used to make newsprint.
I like how you took your mispronunciation of Corning and turned it into my mistake from yesterday about
I read
Project
Corning, the R and the
Nicely
N
done.
as an M.
Well done, Lane.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
OnLive has lots to trumpet at E3. The service that lets you play cutting-edge video games over the internet on older hardware is coming to LG TVs. It'll be built right in. The company also announced in-browser gaming. That means OnLive games could be embedded in any website. So imagine, I don't know, playing Hitman Absolution on Facebook. They're getting Hitman Absolution, by the way. Users also will get multi-view in-game live spectating.
The oldest surviving BitTorrent site, FileSoup, is shutting down. The site lost too many users after it was raided, and 2 of its administrators were arrested. Both men were set free last year after their case was dismissed, but the users were long gone.
Netflix took measures yesterday to ensure quality streams for you. The streaming video service has launched its Open Connect network, which means that it will provide its very own content delivery system. The project will work closely with ISPs to deliver video directly or even install Netflix servers within the ISP's local network.
Apple can't ban Samsung's Galaxy Tab in the U.S. yet. U.S. District Judge Lucy Koh in San Jose, California, said yesterday she doesn't have jurisdiction to issue a preliminary injunction because the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit in Washington hasn't issued a mandate yet. Apple can renew its request once the court in Washington issues its ruling.
All right, we're going to talk about Airtime. Sarah's been playing around with the new feature from Sean Fanning and Sean Parker in just a second, but we want to thank our sponsor, Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. And June is one of the best times ever to sign up. If you've been hearing about Squarespace and thinking, I need to get around to trying that out, go set one up right now. You don't need to give them any credit card information. You don't need to give them anything except the name of your site. And your name and your email address so that they can send you a link to access it, but that's fair. And then you can try it out. You get a great-looking website. You can use all their modules for importing blogs, for making it look great without having to know any code. If you do know some code, you can get under the hood, tweak it yourself. I use it. You should try it. You get the lowest price ever right now, plus you can get an additional 10% off, and you can get a free domain name. Squarespace is offering free domain registration to all annual plan customers. It's completely integrated within the sign-up process, so you don't have to hassle with figuring out how to get your domain name. You just sign up, and you get the domain name free with your annual plan. Now, Squarespace recently reduced its prices. The plans start as low as $8 a month, and Squarespace is giving you 10% off your first purchase on new accounts. That means 10% off the first month, or if you sign up for an annual plan, 10% off the entire year. So go do it. Sign up for a free account right now. As I mentioned, no credit card needed. Try it out. Start building your website. You'll see what we mean about how it's easy to make it look good. They're reliable. They provide you great 24/7 support. And if you decide to purchase Squarespace, use this offer code, TNT6, and you'll get 10% off your first purchase on your new account. That's TNT6, Squarespace.com. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. So what's up with this Airtime thing there, Sarah Lane?
Well, you might have heard over the last couple of years, actually, because it was in stealth mode, something about Sean Fanning and Sean Parker, the co-founders of Napster. Well, Sean Parker particularly has gotten a lot of notoriety because Justin Timberlake played him in a movie, but they were working on some new super stealth Chatroulette-like service, but it was going to be way better. Chatroulette had a short time in the sun as a place to connect anonymously via video with random people around the world. Things got a little, there weren't enough restrictions in place, so people started to equate Chatroulette with
There was
indecency.
a problem with indecent body parts
That's
being
right.
shown. Yes.
My only experiences with Chatroulette can be summed up with Leo's live Chatroulette experiences on This Week in Tech.
So, yeah.
And,
So if you really want to know, go search those out.
Yeah.
What's interesting about Airtime is that, first of all, they say, listen, it's not about anything like that. And if somebody is indecent with you and you've connected with them, you report them and they can get kicked off the service. Okay, well, if it's anonymous, how does it work? You have to log in through Facebook. Has to use your Facebook social graph. So that's, it's good and bad, I guess, depending on who you're connected to on Facebook. In fact, why don't I just show you what
you've been playing
Airtime
with this all day,
looks like? Yeah, I used it this morning, and I actually met somebody who knows me from TWiT, so that was kind of fun. What it'll do is I've went ahead and said, yeah, you can use my webcam, which is it's pulling from my MacBook Air.
Sarah has a great backlight.
Yeah. I guess that's a little bit better. Oh, I'm so angelic. So what you see over here is this is interesting. Here are all my interests. This is stuff that I've liked on Facebook. So I could go ahead
and shows up right there.
Yeah, it's front and center. So it's going to tell the other person a lot about you, but I can also filter and say, I want to talk to somebody who also likes The Daily Show, for example.
And Jon Stewart will show up.
Or somebody who likes him. Now, when I go over to talk to somebody, I can see all of my friends who are available to talk to right now. So you don't actually have to use Airtime for, meeting new people. It can be almost like a video conferencing, almost like a Skype competitor. But I can say, all right, I want to talk to somebody nearby in the San Francisco area who has common interest in me, or is a friend of mine. So I've got almost 700 people that would apply to. That's really helpful so that you can at least say, listen, I only really want a degree of separation between me and the next person. This morning, I went ahead and logged in without even really thinking about it. Guy popped up. He says, hey, how do you know Kevin Systrom? Who's the founder of Instagram? And I said, just
it's a guy.
San Francisco friends.
Just this guy.
I don't really know what to say. And I said, how do you know him? He said, we went to college together. And he goes, wait, you work at TWiT? I know you. I work at, I'm a CEO of a company called ontheair.com. I know Leo. And here I am in my pajamas, holding my cat. Like, well, I should have
drinking your morning cat. So this was friend of a friend.
Yeah, it was Kevin Systrom's friend, and so we're connected to each other through. Hey, I'm sorry, but this is okay. But what's interesting about this Airtime thing is I thought, okay, well, this is one of those examples when you go, it's really important to start using Facebook for people you actually know or contacts you've actually made, because that's how something like Airtime that uses Facebook's social graph will work. If you're the kind of person who's friended 5,000 people, then something like this is just not going to be as useful for you because it's built on what's supposed to be reality.
And it's just in a browser, right?
Correct.
Is there an install?
No.
No. So it's using Flash.
Yes.
Which means you can't use it on an iPad.
No. In fact, I tried. You can't use it on anything mobile. They say that's coming in the next few weeks.
Okay.
But no, it is not possible to do that right now.
So they're gonna come out with apps then, it sounds like, if it's coming in the next few weeks?
That's what they said.
Okay.
Well, it's I don't know, maybe some sort of HTML5 version. But what's interesting about it is like, okay, so you can talk to people you know. You can talk to someone that you may have something in common with, or you can talk to a complete stranger. You can choose to hide your name. If you're like, I just don't want, if this person ends up being weird on the other side, I've decided to be called anonymous. Or you can decide to share your name. You can also share videos or files. So if Ryan and I connect, we know each other. But I might say, this is the funniest video here, watch this. So we're actually basically in a video chat. It's not dissimilar to something like Google Hangouts, for example. And even though you can't do a three-way or more conversation, so the three of us cannot be in a hangout together, I could have simultaneous one-on-ones with both of you. So I don't have to just have one conversation at a time.
So it's not a Google Hangout competitor yet.
No.
What's the benefit of having two one-way conversations at the same time?
Maybe you are a serial dater and you just have half an hour every day. I don't know. I just
the same responses.
I'm not sure. It would seem kind of clunky, right? Because you're going back and forth between your tabs, I guess.
It's like flipping back and forth on a phone if somebody's on hold on the other side type of thing.
Yeah. I'm thinking like, it's two people who don't want to talk to each other. But tell him that I say that I don't want to speak to him anymore.
Do you think that this is aimed at the more anonymous type of connecting, or the more kind of Skype-oriented talk with the people you already know?
Well, that's a good question. It's just your Facebook network, right? So I think a lot of the questions that have come up from people are sort of saying, well, why don't I just chat within Facebook? I mean, why would I use Airtime for this? But I guess it's because anything is possible. So I could connect to Colin Weir, who's just sitting right over there on the other side of our studio, or I could connect to somebody I've never met before who ends up being a really good friend.
Yeah, I think it is less about your friends. I mean, obviously they include that because it doesn't make sense not to if you're going to integrate with Facebook in the first place.
Sure.
But I think it's more about you can now talk to people you don't know safely. If you want to make friends, if you want to seek out new friends, using that common interest is an interesting way to say, instead of Chatroulette, where you're just wide open and who knows what's going to show up on your screen, you're saying, actually, I'm looking for folks who are big fans of, the science fiction writer Dan Simmons. And then you click on the Dan Simmons thing, and you've got something to talk about right from the beginning.
And, this is not the first, it's certainly not the first company to try to do this. At South by Southwest this year, one of the apps that got a lot of attention is an app called Highlight. Hasn't really taken off, but the whole idea was you're in the vicinity of somebody who you have either a friend in common with or some sort of interest that you've filled out on your profile, and that person might come up to you and say, hey, Dan Simmons, I like him too. Let's talk. Have you read that book? Type of a thing.
Sure.
So this is almost if you're not so keen on the face-to-face conversation, a little bit of a step back, but the same rewards.
Face-to-face in the real world.
Yeah.
Just you get face-to-face. It's just
free, too. If anyone's like, what does this cost me? It doesn't cost anything.
It costs you your privacy, sort of.
Well,
but you even have some control over that to a certain
yes,
extent, too.
you do.
It costs you
or a
having
bag
to
over
use
your head
Facebook.
if you want to.
Because you have to use Facebook to make it work, right?
You have to use Facebook, and that's going to turn some people off right away. People will refuse to use it because they don't like Facebook, and that's just the way it goes.
Let's talk about the E3 announcements. Big announcements today from Sony and Nintendo. Ryan, are you a fan of the E3? Do you follow the announcements there, console games and all that?
Yeah, actually, all day yesterday, I had all the press conferences. I watched them all live, and then we'll get to the Nintendo one in a bit. But the Nintendo one is the only one I actually closed.
Oh, wow. Okay, so because the Sony one actually had fewer announcements. In fact, the big announcement for Sony was the Wonder Book. That book that they use the J.K. Rowling one as the demo, but allows you to read books on your PS3. And while very impressive demo, I don't know how many people are going to do this. You have to buy a special book, and then you have to hold it up. And I guess it's kind of a fun gift for kids.
I wanted to think this was cool.
Yeah.
I really did. But the more I read about it, the more I thought, this is just some sort of a unique way to make Harry Potter fans happy.
Yeah, I think Harry Potter fans are going to eat this up. But
I do too.
I'm kind of missing. They say educational titles. I guess I could see that. Some demos.
Right.
I thought it was almost analogous to Teddy Ruxpin type stuff when I was a kid. Right, so it was a storytelling medium where you put a cassette tape into a stuffed animal that would then talk and animate with you. This is maybe just a progression of that.
Yeah, actually, that's a good viewpoint on it. It's much better than Teddy Ruxpin, but it's the same sort of idea. I can get behind that. Not many other announcements. PS Vita is going to be crystal white. It's going to get Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified and Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation. Great titles. Nothing there that makes me think, oh, well, now I have to get a PS Vita. But it's good for folks who are PS Vita fans. New titles. I mean, this E3 is pretty much all about video game titles. There's going to be a bunch of new titles from Ubisoft's Far Cry 3, God of War 3, The Last of Us from Naughty Dog.
That got a lot of good responses from people.
And another one that caught my eye is the folks who brought you Heavy Rain, David Cage, has Beyond Two Souls. This is Quantic Dream, is David Cage's outfit. They motion captured Ellen Page. So it was an interesting sort of merging of Hollywood and video games where they're putting forth a headline star, not just as a voice actor, but as a motion capture actor. And Cage said for the first time ever, players will live the life of a video game character over the course of 15 years. It won't be played in real time, I hasten to add.
I thought Sony had the best kind of exclusive titles showcased at their press conference, but in terms of like new technology and like product announcements, they were by far the furthest behind.
Yeah. PlayStation certified program. They're going to now allow PlayStation games off of Sony devices. The Xperia Play type situation is now available for other manufacturers. So far, HTC the only one that's signed on.
And we're not really sure which, Sony specific titles would be part of this.
Yeah, we don't know how we don't know anything else.
Some popular apps.
But I think that's a smart move for Sony and a very un-Sony like move to open up to other platforms. But Nintendo, you turned off, huh? What was the point that made you turn off the Nintendo announcement?
I could only take so many like new Mario Brothers announcements in a row. And then like the 3DS guy came out on stage, and it was just the presentation itself that was very mundane and boring and overly scripted and poorly done. That I was like, I'm just gonna go get lunch and I'll just read about what everybody posts afterwards. Whereas for the Sony and the Microsoft and the EA and Ubisoft ones, I wanted to stay and watch.
Yeah, the big news out of the Nintendo announcement, besides game titles, seems to be that you can now use 2 gamepads on your Wii U. At one point, Nintendo had said, no, we're only going to allow 1 gamepad to be used, and you'll have to use the Wiimote or the other game controller, the Pro Pad, I guess it's called, or the Game Pro. I think it's the Game Pro. But you can now use 2 gamepads on your Wii U, but the frame rate drops to 30 frames per second.
Worth it.
Was that on the TV or on both devices?
I think it's on the devices. It wouldn't make sense for the TV frame rate to drop because you're using the gamepads, but the devices could be, sharing the signal.
Right.
And
well, if it's sharing computing resources, it could drop it on both devices, right?
I guess it could. You're right.
Gamepads are really just kind of like streaming displays, but I guess it would be more of a bandwidth issue than if it only happens.
Oh, it is. No, you're right. It is the TV, and so you're not going to have as good of an experience playing the game if you use 2 gamepads, which is probably why they didn't want to allow to at the first place. But
they bowed to pressure.
Miiverse app will integrate with Facebook and Twitter. You can share what you're currently playing and share your achievements.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want more of on Twitter and Facebook.
Automatic postings.
What's Tom playing right now?
It's
7:30 p.m. What are you doing?
Ryan's going to unfollow me because it's all going to be Mario.
Well, see, I was too harsh on that. I like Nintendo's games. I really do. Just the presentation was awful, and I felt like I could get more out of it watching it afterwards. I think Nintendo probably had the best, maybe the most interesting content in terms of just because it was all new, and they actually have new hardware to talk about, and new specifications to detail, and Sony and Microsoft are really on the side of they're really trying to stem the tides until they can get their next generation hardware out, maybe showing next E3.
Now, they didn't give us a hard release date or price on the Wii U, which I was a little surprised about. Because they say it's going to be out by the holidays. Nintendo's going to have the next new console that you can buy by the end of this year. Worries me a little that they don't know more certain. They're not more certain on when that's going to come out.
Well, it sounds like it's not going to come out too much earlier than December. I mean, what is the beginning of the holiday season has kind of turned into mid to late October?
Yeah,
is when we start seeing the stuff. I think if they had anything sooner, they would say so.
I tend to agree. I would think that if it was really good news, they would be telling us. And I think probably part of the bad news is that it's going to be more expensive than the Wii was upon its launch. Those gamepads can't be cheap unless they're willing to eat a lot of that hardware cost up front, which Nintendo has typically not done. Then I think it's going to be they're maybe trying to fight pricing schemes internally.
So you're going to get Super Mario Brothers U. You're going to get Pikmin 3. There's a new minigame compilation called Nintendo Land, which has a Zelda area, a Mario area, a Luigi's Mansion area, kind of like Wii Sports, as I mentioned in Newsfeeds, kind of like a Wii Sports for fans of Nintendo. You're going to get this Miiverse. You're going to be able to use 2 gamepads. You're going to have access to these HD services we mentioned, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. You're also going to get some third-party games with some serious gaming emphasis behind them. Mass Effect 3, Batman Arkham City, Assassin's Creed 3, Scribblenauts. Not as hardcore. But
Just Dance 4, Tom. Do not forget Just Dance 4.
Those are always my favorite demos.
Given that we've got the gamepad, which is nifty, but it seems bulky to me, and given that we've got all of these we've got a little bit of entertainment, so it's competing with the Xbox. We've got a little bit of hardcore, so it's competing with the Xbox and the Sony PS3. Is this something we need to buy?
I don't know. I think Microsoft made a pretty compelling argument for being able to use any device with your console. With the glass product that they had, and it kind of goes up right against what the Wii U is trying to do. I think I'm hoping that just as there were with the first couple of years of the Wii's existence, that there are interesting and innovative gameplay styles that change along with this new kind of controller and adapter. I think a lot of the novelty of the Wii wore off for kind of the mainstream to hardcore gamers pretty quickly, and I imagine that will still happen with the Wii U. But for the casual gamer, the mom and dads, the kids, all that kind of stuff, the novelty tends to last quite a bit longer. So I think it could still be pretty successful. Yeah,
I think you're right. It needs to be really successful to help Nintendo out. That's the question, is if it can be as successful as it needs to be. But I think you're right. I think people will buy it. I think it'll be worth taking a look at, especially once we get a price and a release date. We got Computex stuff to talk about. It's the day of the ultrabook. But first, I want to thank our other sponsor for today's show, ShareFile from Citrix. Our work days are filled with emails going back and forth. You're sending documents all around. I've been doing this a lot lately. I've been sending leases to people. I've been sending these big video files to a place that National Geographic is putting together, this thing that's going to be sent to outer space, contracts. You'd be surprised how much space a freaking scanned-in contract can take up when it's hundreds of pages long. Your files are getting larger and larger, and you don't want them to bounce back. You've got these contracts that are confidential information. You don't want to just stick them up in any old system and where anybody could possibly crack in. There's a better way to do this. Do what we're doing. ShareFile by Citrix. With ShareFile, you can send files of almost any size easily and securely. Instead of attachments, you're sending a secure link. It's easy to send, easy to receive, and it's tracked. So you can see when it's received, who opened it, make sure your recipient opened it. Plus, ShareFile allows you to access your own files from anywhere, your laptop, your tablet, your smartphone. So you can use it to store files that you need on the go. Get work done wherever you are. We use it here all the time. I was using it to share videos that I really didn't want anyone else to see, but they're too big to send by email. So try it out. ShareFile will help you and your team benefit. Get started. We have a special offer for our listeners, a 30-day free trial, plus, get this, double storage. Sign up today. Go to sharefile.com, click on the radio microphone, and enter our promo code TNT. Remember, visit sharefile.com, type in that promo code TNT. Send those large files easily and securely with ShareFile from Citrix, and we thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Let's start off talking about Computex with Intel. They had a keynote address. SVP of Sales and Marketing Tom Kilroy gave the address, really stressing that Intel is going to be there for touch, it's going to be there for sensors, and it wants to get into your phones and tablets. They announced agreements with Kondo, Hans Touch, TPK, and Wintech to guarantee the supply of touch displays. They're out there basically writing checks to guarantee that the supply chain is going to work for anybody who's not Apple, who wants to make these devices. They touted the fact they've got more than 20 Windows 8 tablets with Intel innards on the way. They told Computer World that they would easily support Windows Phone on x86, and the hooks are already in there, although they are still preferring Android. Ryan, what do you make of Intel's chances in getting into more phones and smartphones when ARM is completely dominant right now?
I think it's surprisingly good. I don't think it's good today, and I don't think it'll be good next year. But if maybe I take that back. Maybe this time next year we will start to see the first products. The issue is, building chips this small and this power efficient is really an iterative process, right? And we've seen Intel slowly kind of build down into that and slowly make higher performing, lower power parts that are more reasonably sized and can actually fit in phones. I think the phones that they launched in Asia and the one on Orange over in Europe are actually a pretty big deal. People are willing to take a chance on the new technology, and Intel has a lot of money. They have a lot of drive. They really, they kind of don't view AMD as a big competitor anymore, right? They kind of feel like they've got the consumer desktop CPU and notebook CPU area kind of locked up. So their next target is now Qualcomm, who is the biggest, ARM-based SoC vendor in the world. And if you're Qualcomm, you've got to be a little bit worried, right? Because this is a company that makes billions of dollars a quarter. They know process technology and CPU technology better than anybody else in the industry, and they have their own IP to lean on at the same time.
Yeah, I think in tablets, Intel's got a very good chance because Apple makes their own processor, essentially. That's all in-house. So outside of Apple, if we kind of bracket that off, there's a lot of room for Intel to make a play, especially with Windows 8. being more functional, in my opinion, on an Intel chip than it is on an ARM chip. Windows RT has some limitations that you may or may not care about. But I'm liking a lot of those tablets that I saw yesterday. So I agree with you. It's not something they can turn on overnight. I'm a little more skeptical on the phone side.
It's a tougher task. It definitely is, right? I mean, and that's we're seeing a lot of, well, maybe at least 5 or 6 or 7 of those x86 based Windows 8 tablets from Asus and those guys as well. But in the phones, I think they'll get there. This current generation of architecture, Clover, Trail, and Medfield, aren't going to be able to do it in the mainstream, right? But I think if you give them another 18 months, they're going to have the product that can do it. And now that they support Android, and they're not depending on a Microsoft operating system that has been struggling in this market, that I think they will make some significant inroads. And as you were talking about earlier, where they're willing to write checks to make sure people have access to touch displays on laptops, they're going to be willing to write checks to make sure maybe a major vendor only uses their chips. Something like that. Stuff that they've maybe gotten in trouble for in the past, but they're willing to do that to make themselves the winner in the market.
Now, Intel's ultrabooks are on fine display at Computex right now. You can't walk 2 feet without touching one. Literally, they've all got touchscreens too. We've got Samsung with their what is it? The Series 5 Ultra convertibles. We've got the Toshiba Satellite U845W with a 21:9 aspect ratio. Fujitsu Lifebook with hard drive solid state caching. NEC has a 2.2-pound 13-inch ultrabook. Tons to look at here. It's the day the ultrabooks get their viewing. Any of these
21:9? Yeah,
what's up with that? Okay, 14.4-inch diagonal, 1792 by 768.
So this is a relatively small screen overall.
The U845W Toshiba Satellite, $1,000, $999.
Okay,
are you going to use that?
Well, I'm thinking, all right, well, the movies would be nice and there'd be no black bars, but what am I really using that on the laptop?
You would have black bars, actually, on the side.
On the sides you would. See, okay, all right, so already, yeah, I'm that's a little silly. But you know what I think it is? It's not so much for that. It's for having, I can see a nice big browser window and a few instances of other apps running on the side and feeling like I have a lot more room horizontally to see everything. Yeah, that I like.
Casey Johnson from Ars Technica said when you think about it as 2 screens in one, like a dual screen monitor and a laptop essentially,
that I like.
It starts to make more sense. I would like to give it a try, although it looks really shallow. Remember, it's 14.4 inches diagonal, which means it's still like a 14-inch monitor, but to get that aspect ratio, it has to squish it down.
You kind of end up feeling like you have some wasted space down on the keyboard too.
I think this might be an interesting design if it were a higher resolution. It's only a 768. It's
1792 by 768. Yeah, that horizontal. Yeah, because
it's 768 lines, which if you got that if you got a 1366 by 768 notebook today, that's pretty low resolution, right? So I think you're missing out on a lot of vertical space there. I'm all for trying out new form factors and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I guess the move to 16 by 9 seems useful now. I don't know if the move to 21 by 9 is really something that we're going to be looking for.
I can see wanting the space, but you're right. I want all the space, and I'm not sure if I got all the space, I'd want the laptop anymore because it'd be so tall.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that's a good question. Any of these other ultrabooks catch your eye, Ryan?
I'm kind of interested in the ones that maybe have. There's not a whole lot of them. Higher resolution screens, right? There's still a lot of drawbacks to ultrabooks as they are today, and this again gets back into the ability of Intel to write checks. Intel creates the standard that is an ultrabook, and all of a sudden everybody and their brother is making about 5 of them. I want to see, the ultrabooks that have the longer battery life, that have a discrete GPU maybe in them, have the 19 by 12 or 19 by 10 resolution screens and those types of things. And there's only been a couple of those, and the reason is Intel's definitely trying to keep prices down. They don't want ultrabooks to be known as that $1999 computer. And that's why you see things like the satellite there for $999 and the Fujitsu's for $1149 and all that kind of stuff, is because they want it to be competitive with the lower end MacBook Air, and they don't want it to be like a super kind of high end device. But that's more what I'm interested in is, give me, if I'm gonna get this super sexy design for a laptop, I want it to have good components as well. If that means a discrete GPU to hook up to do external monitor gaming and that kind of stuff, that would be a benefit in my mind.
It feels like we're a step or two away from that. These seem like a big upgrade over the netbooks of several years ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
By far, but we're not quite to the point where, what goes into a not quite desktop replacement can fit into this form factor. Because
right.
I'm right there with you, Ryan. I want to have higher power components than what these ultrabooks are delivering, but I'm very tempted. They've got everything else. They've got the right weight. They've got ultra convertibles where there's the one from Samsung, the Series 5 that is kind of like the Lenovo Yoga where it can flip back. I'm attracted by all these bells and whistles, but I want to have the insides that I want as well.
I know you talked about it yesterday too, but I'm not sure I'm sold on the whole idea of the convertible ultrabook or the detachable ultrabook. It seems to me I
don't want detachable either. Yeah,
just the close-up photos of these that you make some pretty significant sacrifices in the design of the unit when you start getting into this detachable type device. I think Windows 8 is, Microsoft and Intel, these are the two companies that really control the direction of everything that we see in the PC world, right? And you see that in the Ultrabook, and you see that now in touch screens on laptops. I know you talked about one yesterday that had a 180-degree hinge. I think that was from Asus, that would lay completely flat. And I don't really see the point in that. How many times do you have space where you can lay your laptop out completely flat anyway on an airplane, at a desk, at a meeting or something like that? And what use is that for touch-enabled devices?
I definitely run into it, but you're right. If I have to sacrifice anything to get it, it's not worth it because the number of times I need it are so few.
And the whole point of mobility is, hey, sometimes you don't have a lot of room, so you want something that's light that doesn't take up all this room.
It's usually when I want to show Sarah something, I just have to tilt my laptop down. That's the only time I run into it.
It's so inconvenient.
Yeah. Anything else non-Ultrabook? There's a lot more going on at Computex. You guys are covering the heck out of it at PCPer.com. What else is catching your eye?
There's usually we use Computex as a huge component just for people who build their own PCs, right? And there's a little bit less emphasis on that this year, even in the past 3 or 4 years. I think mostly because of all the excitement and news circulating about Windows 8 and touch devices and Ultrabooks and that kind of stuff. I mean, we saw reported of an Asus Mars 3 dual GTX 680. So the 680 is the highest end single GPU that you can get now, and Asus has kind of built one that is 2 of these chips on the same die, overclocked, and it requires 3 8-pin PCI Express power connectors, which is, twice as many pins as are required for a single one of those GPUs. We're seeing a lot of Thunderbolt devices sneak out as well. We're finally seeing Windows-based implementations of Thunderbolt as well. MSI, Gigabyte, Asus, all their motherboards are going to have that going forward, or at least on their higher end models and that kind of stuff. We've also seen a completely new SSD controller that just kind of announced out of the blue that Corsair is going to make a line of Neutron SSDs based on maybe not the worst named company I've ever heard of, but Link-A Media devices.
Linka.
And they actually use the underscore in their name between Link.
Okay.
And I don't, so
you're gonna get sued by Nintendo.
Yeah. So there's interesting stuff going on there, and I'm hoping that as the week progresses, we'll see a little bit more of these kinds of things leak out. But from a component perspective, Ivy Bridge has already launched. NVIDIA and AMD already have their new GPUs out, so a lot of that is already kind of known, and they're not using the show to really push it.
Much USB 3.0 stuff? I know I've seen a few things like the Belkin Thunderbolt
for $400.
For $400 has some USB 3. Are you seeing many else?
Not any additional accessories. I know that there are, I think DisplayLink is showing USB 3.0 based external display capabilities that can push higher resolutions. I know USB 2.0 had already had this capability, but I think you were limited to 19 by 10 resolutions. Now you can go up to the 30-inch screens, 2560 by 1600 or 2560 by 1440, utilizing the additional bandwidth of USB 3. But yeah, Thunderbolt accessories, like you guys were talking about, just how expensive they are, just is blowing me away. I can't $400 for is essentially a breakout box for a laptop.
They raised the price. They added USB 3, which they didn't have previously in the spec, but then they raised the price. Was it $100 that they raised the price? Am I remembering that right? I think it went from $300 to $400. Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, look, I don't know if this is part of like they're being associated with Apple, so they tend to get a little bit higher price, a little bit more markup and that type of thing. But that stuff's not going to really fly in the mainstream PC market, right? People will not adopt the technology if they had to spend $400 for that type of stuff.
Even with eSATA and HDMI and all that stuff packed in there, that's too much.
Didn't they lose their HDMI port actually?
No, they have a DisplayPort HDMI converter, exactly. Matrox has a cheaper one, $150 cheaper, but it doesn't have daisy chaining because it only has one Thunderbolt port. So, which
to me actually it's like one of the main features of Thunderbolt, right? Is the ability to daisy chain devices, and if you have a device that doesn't do that, that's kind of silly.
All right, let's finish up with a report from 9to5Mac about the hardware refresh.
Yeah, WWDC,
you laying the odds there, Sarah?
Next Monday. So everyone wants to start speculating on what they're going to talk about besides iOS 6, besides iCloud, besides Mountain Lion. We want to know what hardware is getting refreshed. Curiously, if you go ahead and act like you are buying a Mac Pro, which is the line of Mac that has been updated.
It's been the longest ago since it got updated.
Exactly. Yeah. And you try to put an order in for let's see, what was the order that I just put in? Now I'm losing my tab. One of the models, usually it's a 2 to 4 business day delivery, now not available until June 15th, which is a nice couple days after the show.
Very interesting.
So one might think
maybe
Apple sometimes does things like this. Maybe it's the Mac Pro.
I was very adamant to Eileen on the phone last night that you're not going to get a hardware refresh at WWDC. They
from
just
any
don't
model?
do it.
Not from a MacBook Pro, not from an Air?
They don't do it anymore. It's a developer conference. They focus
hold
on
on
software.
Now, though. This is
is making me doubt myself.
This is a new year, and they're doing new things. 9to5Mac did report, and some other news orgs are picking it up too, that the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro both reporting to come out with Retina display models. Ryan, that's got to make you happy, at least if the better display is a better thing. Now, I know that you've got some folks in the component business who say maybe just one version of the MacBook Pro, not all of them.
Yeah, I kind of find it hard to believe that the MacBook Air would see a higher resolution screen as they're mentioning, just because the price levels that they're at now, you can get them starting at $999 and that type of thing. I would be, based on what I'm kind of hearing on the backside, is that there's going to be one model that's going to have a super high resolution screen. It's probably going to be like a 15 or a 17-inch model. It's not going to be in anything super. It's not going to be on one of their MacBook Airs. It's going to be in one of the Pro models. Another thing to think about is when you have that higher resolution, you need to make sure you have enough GPU horsepower to render all those pixels, efficiently and quickly enough if you're going to do any kind of gaming, any kind of video processing. And while the Ivy Bridge graphics that will be in most of these refreshed models is better than what exists in Sandy Bridge, if you're talking about a 3840 by 2160 resolution, that's crazy high. And I think you would really need to have a discrete GPU solution in a notebook to handle that. Like, you're not going to be able to play Half-Life 2 even, or Portal 2 on Steam on your Mac at 38 by 21 using Ivy Bridge graphics. You're gonna need discrete for that, and I think Apple is conscious enough to want to make sure that their users only get the best possible experience. So I think it makes more sense that it would only be in one unit as well.
There is the rumor again from 9to5Mac. It's coming from 15-inch MacBook Pro would have Retina display, USB 3.0, and even a thinner profile. So maybe more robust, but a little bit thinner. Then again, there are rumors that both the 11-inch and the 13-inch MacBook Airs would also be upgraded to Retina displays. Sounds great to me, but again, we'll have to see. I like the idea of the Mac Pro getting a little bit of love. Didn't even have a Thunderbolt port.
Yeah, I think it's about time for the Mac Pro. The fact that you've got the shipping delay, that really makes me think we definitely are going to see a Mac Pro announcement at WWDC.
Eileen's going to laugh in your face.
She won't be the first time. Let's check what's in the randomizer. We got some cool stuff. Calling an audible.
Randomizer.
Now, we were going to talk about, and we still are going to talk about, the National Reconnaissance Office, according to The Verge, offering NASA 2 Hubble-class telescopes that are sitting in a warehouse in Rochester, New York. I say warehouse because I'm just guessing. I don't really know where they're sitting. NASA says it will not accept the telescopes unless Congress gives them the money to convert one of them from being a spy machine into a dark energy detecting instrument of science. It's kind of like giving somebody a computer, an old computer, and you're like, great, you're going to pay for me to upgrade the operating system and add some new RAM
now I just
and swap out the hard drive.
Get some storage for this.
That's really what I need to do.
Kind of seems ungrateful.
It does and it doesn't. It's one of those, you know how you can burden somebody with a gift? Like, hey, here's my old stuff. What, you're going to get mad at me for giving you my old stuff?
You throw it away.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like that. But NASA says if they do get the funding, they only need it for one of the telescopes because they will then contract a private company to take the other telescope into orbit to assist in dark energy experiments. So that's cool. But I also want to talk about the transit of Venus, which just started as we're covering the show. There it is. Venus crossing the sun.
Hey, Venus.
Hey.
You look so small.
Moving pretty slow.
Hope you're okay. This isn't going to happen again until, what, 2140 or something like that?
Something like that,
it's, you know, long after we're gone. 21-something.
Yeah. And what this helps scientists with particularly is to be able to see what kind of signals you get from a planet with an atmosphere when it crosses in front of a star so they can use that to better detect other planets in front of other stars besides our own.
So cool.
Yeah, cool stuff. Don't go out and look directly at it.
No.
Just saying.
Don't do that.
What's in the calendar?
Glad you asked that, Tom. AT&T is officially acknowledging that the Samsung Exhilarate's existence does exist. And it's also going to be available on June 10th for $50.
Exhilarating news.
Yes, I feel exhilarated as well. The HTC One X is also slated for a June 10th release on AT&T. Pre-orders have started. Glimpse, the Social Discovery Conference, which they claim is the first conference focused on the future of social discovery, is tomorrow, June 6th in San Francisco. And tomorrow, June 6th through Thursday, June 7th, is the Tech Policy Summit in Napa.
Ooh. I should have gone to that one.
Tech and wine.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
They're saying in the chat room, by the way, 2117.
2117.
Is the next time we see a transit of Venus. Thank you, chat.
I'll still be dead.
Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
This one comes from our old friend Alex, who's mad about airlines using iPads instead of an inbuilt entertainment system. Why are you mad, Alex?
Hi, this is Alex, and I'm angry because of this airline who replaces the flight entertainment system with iPads. I mean, nobody watches movie on the entertainment system. We all have our tablets, our phones, or whatever. What we need the entertainment system for is the map, what us always shows where we are, our altitude, our speed, and so on. And you can't preload that, so it's gone. Thank you, cheap airline.
I was all for the iPads on the airlines until I heard this. I love the map. It's true.
Well, I think both have their place. If you're on a really long flight and you load up your iPad with a bunch of movies and then your battery is depleted, or maybe there's a movie on the airplane. Sometimes movies on airplanes are terrible, but sometimes they're okay that you hadn't even thought of, and you're just bored and you just want to get through the 12-hour flight as comfortably as possible. Having both is nice.
Are we assuming that these iPads don't have, like, there's not going to be a Wi-Fi network on the plane? Because on planes where I don't have a touchscreen or an entertainment device in front of me, I actually use like flightaware.com to monitor the flight so I know how close we're getting and all that kind of stuff. Is it possible that the iPads would be able to do that anyway?
Well, yes, it's possible. I think that we were gathering from the stories we read that there wouldn't be Wi-Fi on these airplanes, and they would be preloaded, or they would be, disabling the Wi-Fi.
Right.
But that would be nice. That would be the perfect solution. Then
Transatlantic Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Why not? Just make it so. Please.
Snap your fingers.
Begging you.
Got an email from Psych4 in Adelaide, South Australia, and a couple other people who very nicely pointed out that the Asus Pad phone did actually come into existence. It just didn't sell very well, but it did come into existence. If you go to asus.com, it's right there. It was the article we were reading yesterday suggested that it had never shipped. I think maybe it just kind of flopped.
I don't think it may not have ever shipped in the U.S.
Oh, maybe that's it. You could buy it, but you just couldn't buy it here. That's why they thought that. So there you go. Thanks, Psych4, for that.
Alex Ford wrote us as well and said, I was excited about the Asus Tai Chi after you were talking about it, and I wanted to show my fiance. But her not being a techie, the first thing she said was, what if you're doing something you don't want others to see, like watching porn or banking? How you know the other screen, and how do you know the other screen isn't on? I know it's early to ask this, but it's a good question.
This is the one
This is the screen on the back that would be showing.
Yeah, and the screen goes black when you don't have it on.
It seems, if I am understanding how the dual screen works correctly, it would be a toggle on. Hey, look at my screen. Toggle off.
Yeah.
I am no longer sharing because it's something I have to opt into.
But you know what? It's definitely one of those things where people, like, yeah, it's supposed to work like that.
Right.
But
Put tape over the cameras.
Doorbell rings, you sit back down.
Little pebcac, like, oh, I forgot that was on.
And all the strangers in your home now know what you're doing now.
Yeah.
At a coffee shop, I can see this maybe being.
I think you're right. You have to cover it with Post-it notes, Ryan.
Just like people who get scared of that their webcams are going to come on their laptops and they put a piece of tape over it. You'll just have to tape paper to the back of your laptop.
Actually, it'd be a great accessory to bundle with it. You know, a little curtain that you could open and close when you want to make sure people can see it.
Sorry, show's over, everybody.
Yeah, stop looking at my stuff. I'm banking now. All right, that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Thanks, everybody who submitted stories in our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com. That's where we got that NASA having the two telescopes. So lots of great stuff in there. So go and join the over 7,000 folks who submit stories and vote them up or down. It helps us decide what we cover each and every day on Tech News Today. And thank you, Ryan Shrout, for joining us today. Let folks know what's going on over there at PCPer.com and what they can find.
So obviously, all this week we're going to be covering Computex. So lots of new components, new video cards, new motherboards. We're starting to see some of the AMD Trinity based APU systems start to leak out. Obviously, a lot of the ultrabooks and Windows 8 tablets and all that kind of stuff as well. And just remind people, if you want to check out what you need to build your next PC, we have a really cool feature called the Hardware Leaderboard. Kind of details 4 or 5 systems at certain price levels and gives you our quick recommendations on what we would like. That's PCPer.com/leaderboard.
Awesome. You guys do a great job over there. PCPer.com. Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. And you can give us a call and leave us a voicemail. Our phone number is 260-TNT-SHOW. Renee Ritchie joins us tomorrow. We'll see you then.
I like the shuffle at the end, Chan.
Thank you.